Hey guys, how are you all? Welcome to Let's Start Story on What If Naruto Had Massive Harem with Nefertari Vivi Part 2. So do 4 blue hearts. Comment, be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video, and please share with your friends and watch till end. Also check out Patreon for I have upload Naruto X Rias and Akino uncensored spicy version, link in description. It has been 3 years since Naruto agreed to join the red-haired pirates. Like his uncle had predicted, Konohamaru easily agreed to join the crew, as did Naruto. Shanks was also correct that Rayleigh would allow his 2 sons to join as well. It was hard for Rayleigh to allow his children to go, but ultimately he knew Naruto and Konohamaru both would need the training and experience Shanks could give them. After all, Naruto has earned quite the bounty and needed to become stronger to protect himself. So Rayleigh allowed them leave with only a few conditions. These being that they had to call him weekly and make time to visit him, which both boys did as much as possible. Though most of the time Naruto and Konohamaru were focused on their training or fighting marines and other pirates. This caused both boys to quickly rise in strength and infamy. Starting off with Naruto, he had made the most progression. His swordsmanship had reached a level that was quickly surprising Shanks, who would have never believed his nephew would become such a powerful swordsman. Naruto proved his strength a little under a month ago, when the world government sent a fleet of 10 ships to attack the red-haired pirates. Each ship was under the command of a vice-admiral, but the fleet was no match for the group of pirates whose captain had obtained the title of Yonko. But it was not Shanks that made a difference in the battle. It was Naruto, who during the scuffle landed on the deck of one of the ships and defeated 5 vice-admirals with his sword only. Then before he floated off with his devil fruit abilities, Naruto sliced the ship in half. Needless to say, Shanks was a proud uncle, captain and teacher that day. Though Naruto's sword play wasn't the only area he improved in over the 3 years of his training. Naruto also mastered and created a few new attacks with his devil fruit. The first one was the attack he used most frequently, and he called it Hurricane Punch. Like the name would suggest, Naruto would cover his fist in Busoshoku Haki. Then he would extend his arm by turning his arm into wind. What made this attack so deadly was that Naruto would use wind that possessed the same speed as hurricane force winds. So the result was a punch that not only could attack at distance, but was just as fast as a bullet. The other attack Naruto created was Tempest Barrier. This attack, Naruto would surround himself and his opponent inside a giant hurricane. However, this attack was different than Naruto's other abilities, since it only traps Naruto's enemy inside the eye of the storm, which was relatively harmless. The real dangers of this attack was how only Naruto could exit and enter the wind storm. If someone were to attempt to pass through the hurricane, it wouldn't end well. Since, to place it into perspective, Naruto's winds would be moving incredibly fast and in different directions. So if someone were to run into the wind, it would be like jumping into a grinder. Finally, Naruto had improved his Haoshoku to a level where he could knock down 50,000 men with one stare. Something that he had tested when a group of pirate crews formed an alliance to take his uncle out 1 year ago. Naruto still remembers being the only person to exit his uncle's ship and face the army of 50,000 pirates. The fight was over in a second thanks to Naruto's Haoshoku Haki. Overall, with his Haki, devil fruit abilities and swordsmanship, Naruto was one of the most deadly teenagers alive, if not the deadliest. Konohamaru, on the other hand, had excelled in his training as well. However, unlike his adopted brother, Konohamaru didn't train with Shanks. In fact, he trained with Yasopp, a man who Konohamaru thought was pretty funny and all around a good guy. Over the 3 years under the man, Konohamaru learned how to proficiently use both Kanbunshoku and Busoshoku Haki. Though that was not all, as Yasopp helped him learn how to shoot guns like a true sniper. A fighting style which fitted the younger boy, as he could take out larger threats from farther away. Though Ben had also taken a slight interest in Konohamaru. He explained to him that Konohamaru needed some form of close-quarters fighting style. So after some trial and error, Ben decided learning to fight with a bow staff would suit Konohamaru best. Ben was correct, as Konohamaru quickly learned how to fight with a bow staff. He even managed to earn the moniker Dark Bow Konohamaru. Though this new name came with a price, and that price was a bounty on his head. A topic which Naruto and Konohamaru argued constantly about. They argued who would end up with the higher bounty before they started their own crew. Naruto was currently ahead as his bounty has actually raised to 445 million belly. Thanks to all H's accomplishments with the red-haired pirates. Konohamaru's bounty was impressive for his age, but this was due to three things. 1. He had fighting abilities like no child his age should have. The second reason was he went proudly under the name of Silver's Konohamaru, son of the Dark King. Then the last reason was because of everything he did while flying under the banner of the red-haired pirates. So altogether Konohamaru's total bounty was 95 million belly. A bounty incredibly small compared to Naruto's, but for his age, overall skill and crimes it was understandable. After all, he didn't TCHER over half a dozen celestial dragons like Naruto did. While speaking of the two brothers, Naruto and Konohamaru were on the deck of their ship, which was headed for a destination that Naruto never heard of before. Though that wasn't surprising as the group of pirates were currently in the South Blue. An area of sea he had never visited, but his uncle said that the South Blue housed many beautiful islands. Magnificent weather out, Kono, wouldn't you agree? Naruto asked as he leaned against the ship's railing. Looking up to the bright cloudless sky, Konohamaru looked over to his older brother. In the past 3 years, Naruto had changed tremendously. No longer was Naruto a small and weak child, as now he was a tall and confident-looking teenager, who stood well over 6 feet tall. His skin had turned a sun-kissed brown thanks to all his time at sea and adding in all his well-defined muscles. The blonde-haired pirate was quite the looker. Naruto's choice of fashion had also taken a shift as well. Starting with his hair, Naruto allowed his hair to grow long enough to where it reached over his eyes and ears. He often found his hair blocking his vision, but instead of chopping his hair off, Naruto chose to take a bandana and tie his hair back. The bandana itself was black and bore the insignia for the red hair pirates. For a shirt, Naruto wore a black Hawaiian shirt, which he left unbuttoned, showing off not only his chiseled chest and abs, but also his sun pirate's mark. On the back side of the shirt, Naruto had Dark Prince written in orange-colored kanji. On Naruto's lower body he wore a pair of black cargo pants and a white belt, which he kept Kurama strapped to at all times. Finally, Naruto had a pair of plain black sandals. Yeah, it's really nice out today, but yas. Op-sensei said enjoy the weather while we can. Because after we stop at our next destination, we are heading farther south towards the colder regions. Konohamaru informed while bringing his arms behind his back. Naruto looked down to his 10-year-old brother. Konohamaru attempted to copy his choice of fashion, but instead of orange and black clothing, Konohamaru took a liking to a green and white color scheme. Also, unlike his brother, he did not have a sword. Instead, Konohamaru had one pistol at his hip and a pouch of ammo on his right thigh. Though Konohamaru also had his bow staff, which was a long and thick wooden pole that was painted red. It was a gift from Ben and was tipped with kairoseki. Konohamaru had named it Enma, and like Naruto always carried his weapon with him, but Konohamaru kept his staff on his back. So do you know when we are arriving to our destination? Naruto asked out of the blue, attempting to strike some conversation. Konohamaru titled his head and furrowed his brow. I have no clue, Ni-chan. The small boy admitted truthfully. We will be arriving within the hour. A new voice spoke up, grabbing both boys' attention. Naruto looked over to the voice and spotted his uncle and captain, who was slowly approaching them both. Hey Uncle Shanks, finally sleep off last night's booze? Naruto asked casually, earning a snicker from Konohamaru. Shanks chuckled and rubbed a hand through his hair. Good morning to you as well, Naruto. The elder pirate replied. Naruto smirked and waved his uncle off. Yeah, whatever, old man. The blonde replied, earning a tick mark from Shanks. Annoying brat. Shanks grumbled childishly. I'll have you know I'm not that old, in fact I'm currently in my prime. Sure you are, I swear you take more offensive to your age than my Ka-chan did. The blonde-haired pirate replied with a loud laugh. Konohamaru laughed as well. He enjoyed the interactions between his adopted family. You should cut the captain some slack, Ni-chan. Konohamaru giggled out. He can't help that he's getting old. Shanks deflated and mumbled something about double-teaming brats, causing Naruto and Konohamaru both to burst out in laughter. Quote, you know we are just messing with you, Uncle Shanks. Naruto explained, his laughter starting to die down. But in all seriousness, can you tell me anything about the island we are going to? I would like to have a little information on where we are headed. Shanks nodded and rested against the ship's railing. Well, for starters, the island is called Forest Island. So like you would expect, it's a fairly large island, which is covered in trees. Though there is something special about this island, the red-haired captain explained, slightly piquing Naruto's interest. Well, so far it just sounds like a boring old island covered in trees. I've already seen trees before and I don't think they're that special. So why are we going there? Naruto asked unenthusiastically, not being impressed by his uncle's description. Shanks huffed in annoyance, his nephew was always impatient. I was getting to that part, brat. The elder pirate grumbled. See, what makes the island special is that it contains a very species of tree that has ever been identified. Some people refer to this island as the all green. So in closing, we are not going to some boring island. We are going to an island which is a one in a million. Konohamaru and Naruto both remained silent, giving Shanks the moment to feel as if he had impressed the two boys. Naruto closed his eyes and sighed. That's real cool and all, Uncle Shanks. But neither of us give two shits about trees. The blonde admitted. Tell him that I'm right, Kono. Konohamaru gave his captain a grin. Sorry, but Naruto ni is right. Neither one of us care about some dumb trees. The little brother explained. Cheeky brats. Shanks mumbled in annoyance. Fine if you're not impressed by one of the most ecological diverse islands. Then I know something that will grab your attention. Naruto opened his eyes and waited for his uncle to speak. You've already had my attention. The blonde-haired pirate pointed out lazily. But you're starting to lose it. Shanks waved his nephew off and turned away. Never mind, I was gonna tell you about this clan of people. They are supposedly amazing swordsmen. And they love accepting challenges from people who visit the island. Naruto got a gleam in his eye then by splitting his body into wind. Naruto shot in front of his uncle and reformed his body. Okay, you have my full attention now. Shanks started to laugh. He knew nothing excited Naruto more than a good fight. Especially a fight against a family of famous swordsmen. That's more like it. Shanks chuckled, as he noticed Konohamaru walk up beside him. Well, first thing you both should know is this. They are a noble clan of swordsmen who were banished from Wano country. They were known as the strongest family within the entire land. Naruto raised an eyebrow. Well, if they were so great, why did they get banished? It doesn't make sense for such an influential family to be tossed out of their country. Yanni-chan is right, something isn't adding up. Konohamaru added in. What caused them to be banished? Shanks squinted his eyes, trying to remember what happened. If my memory is correct, and I believe it is. About 50 years ago, a member of Ir clan butchered many of the heads of the other noble clans within Wano country. They were unable to stop or capture the man, so they made his clan pay for his crimes. So the punishment for the clan was banishment, forcing them to leave Wano and relocate to Forest Island. Naruto remained silent and allowed the knowledge to soak in, thinking if only one of their members was as strong as his uncle described. It spoke volume for the rest of the clan. What is the name of this clan? Naruto asked with a grin, his hand twitching widely by his sword. Shanks noticed his nephew's excitement and smiled. The name of the clan is the Marine HQ. Down in one of the higher offices inside the Marine base located at Marineford, stood one of the most influential figures in the Marines, Danzo Shimura. He was holding a plain-looking Den Mushi, while gazing out the window of his office. A frown plastered on his face as he waited in silence. Suddenly the snail in his hand began to ring. He sighed and answered the call. You are late with your report. Danzo informed with a slight amount of anger in his voice. I expect better out of you. There was a pause on the other end. The only noise that could be recognized was a slight bubbling noise. My apologies, but as you are aware of, I cannot simply call you whenever I want. Here is a lot of people here who don't trust me. The man on the other side explained, his voice showing a hint of anger. Though I don't see why I must report to you every week. Danzo chuckled at the man's response. I merely wish to be informed, so I know if you have been discovered and killed. Though I would like to know about your progress. Have you met their leader or know where he is? Again there was a pause. Like I said, I'm not trusted. Danzo growled, his anger starting to show. You've been within their organization for a year and you have nothing to show for it. I'm starting to grow tired of this. The admiral admitted. Calm yourself, Danzo, I will not fail my mission. It took me 2 years to even get into contact with their group. And so far it's taken you over a year to accomplish nothing. Danzo cut in. I've already done so much for you without failing. So hold your tongue and have patience. The man yelled in anger through the other end. I never fail a mission. Danzo sighed. It wouldn't do any good for him to lose his cool. Fine, I shall wait, but I expect some results soon. However, moving on to another topic. Did you receive the package I sent you? There W. As a sound of papers being moved and handled with. Yes, I did. Mind explaining why you sent me 4 wanted posters? The man asked. Danzo smirked. They are all connected. Can you tell me how they are? The admiral asked. Well, one is the old poster for Gaul D. Roger and the other is of his first mate Silvers Rayleigh. The man replied, as the sound of a paper being moved and a gasp came through the snail phone. So that brat was Rayleigh's child. Danzo's smirk turned into a mad grin. His hunch was proven right over 3 years ago, but he felt now would be a time to reveal this truth. This being because the man had another hunch. Yes, you've been busy these last 3 years. Young Silver's Naruto has made quite the name for himself. He's even joined the red-haired pirates. Who according to my sources is the young boy's uncle. Danzo informed, giving out a small laugh. But you can see there is a theme here with the posters. 2 legends and 2 children. Are you saying Roger may have had a child as well? The man asked. In a surprised voice. Danzo began to laugh. It's only a hunch, but you have to admit the 2 share a resemblance. The man pointed out. These 2, the Dark Prince and Fire Fist. They need to be eliminated. The man said without hesitation. No, we will leave them be. They have nothing to do with me, you or my goals. So allow them both to play pirate. Maybe. E1 say they could become useful to us. Danzo explained over the Den Den Mushi. However, if the time comes. Danzo looked at his reflection in the mirror. His one good eye morphing into a red eyeball, with a large black pupil. That was shaped like a 4-pointed pinwheel. We will kill them both, but keep your mission going. I expect to hear from you soon, Sakazuki. The admiral finished. Click. King off the Den Den Mushi and saying nothing more. With Naruto. Naruto waited in anticipation as he watched the small island off in the distance grow larger and larger. His thoughts consumed on the clan of swordsmen that awaited him on the island. According to his uncle, the compound where the entire clan resides is deep within the island's forest. Currently the ship was headed off to the small section of the island, where the town was located. The island only had 1 town and though it was fairly large in size. The town was dwarfed by the island's massive forest. Somewhere within that massive forest is where Naruto will go venturing off for a good fight. Wano country produces some of the greatest swordsmen. And inside that forest are some of the best swordsmen I may ever fight in my life. Naruto unsheathed Kurama and gazed at the dark black blade. I hope you are as excited as me, Kurama. You know, if people start hearing you talking to a sword, they may think you are some kind of psychopathic killer. A familiar voice chuckled from behind. Naruto quickly sheathed Kurama and looked behind him, spotting his uncle's second-hand man Ben Beckman. Oh hey Ben, how goes things? Naruto asked in a casual tone. Ben smirked and crossed his arms. Came up here to see what you were up to. Konohamaru is down in the mess hall telling the crew how you're going to challenge an entire family of swordsmen. Then he went on to say how you were going to kick the asses of everyone you go up against. The elder pirate explained, shaking his head while he laughed. That boy sure does look up to you. Naruto let a small smile pass his lips. Yeah he does, but I guess that's an older brother's job. Being a role model for the younger sibling. The blonde-haired teen replied. And I'm gonna do everything I can to make him a proud brother. Ben smiled at Naruto's words. The blonde-haired pirate had the same form of kindness, ND charisma that Ben respected Shanks for. You're a good kid Naruto, even if you're a psychotic 15-year-old who talks to sharp objects. Ben chuckled to himself, while Naruto slumped over. I'm not crazy for talking to my sword. The blonde pirate deadpanned. Besides, I think the moment I start hearing Kurama talk is the moment I've lost it. Ha, I think you have a point there. Ben admitted with a booming laugh. Though there is another reason I came down here to speak with you. Naruto raised an eyebrow, his interest slightly piqued. Oh, and what would you like to tell me? Ben looked round the deck and leaned into Naruto with a smirk. Me and Yasop made a friendly little wager. We both know you will try and fight as many of the clansmen as you can. But what we couldn't agree on as the number of victories you would earn. He said 6 and I told him you would beat every member of the clan. So we made a wager, loser pays the winner 100 million belly. Naruto nodded and grinned. Quote, so you want me to either make sure I can beat them all, or stop at 5 victories so Yasop will technically never win the bet. You're pretty smart Naruto, but yes, that's exactly what I want you to do. The infamous pirate replied. Naruto's grin turned into a devious smirk. A smirk that Ben always noticed his captain use when Shanks wanted something. Alright Ben, I can help you out, but Naruto topped and chuckled as he drew out the suspense. You have to pay for my next tab whenever I go out for ramen. Ben slumped over. You're basically asking me to spend all the money I win on you, for your next ramen binge. Naruto chuckled and started to walk away. Take it or leave it Ben, if not I'm sure Yasop would take the deal. You know he is never one to plan things out beforehand. The blonde pointed out. Before he hopped off the boat. Ben sighed as he watched his captain's nephew float in the air. Fine, you have a deal. The man grumbled in annoyance. I take it you're scouting ahead for your opponents. Naruto nodded and started to fly towards the city. You got it. Tell Konohamaru to come find me when the ship docks. He shouted back, almost out of earshot. Yeah, you got it. And by the way, try to avoid creating a huge mess like the last time you ran off by yourself. Ben advised, but Naruto was already long gone. Oh dear Kami, why do I have the feeling he is going to do something stupid? He asked himself as he slumped over. He's worse than the captain. Over with Naruto. The blonde-haired teen was landing near the docks of the town. The eyes of various fishermen locked on him. Eventually he came to a stop in the middle of the docks, causing a few people to gasp and others to scurry off. Naruto noticed these looks and reactions, but brushed them off. He forgot that he wasn't on the Grand Line anymore and devil fruit users were rather rare to come by. So seeing a flying 15-year-old would probably surprise and frighten a lot of people. Chuckling to himself, he raised his hands up in the air. Don't freak out, I'm not some kind of monster. I only ate a devil. Pirates are invading the town. A fisherman yelled in fear, as he dropped his fishing rod and started to run in terror. Quick, someone run and warn the village. Get the word out, another band of pirates is attacking. A second fisherman yelled, as like the first man he fled the scene. Naruto cocked his head to the side in confusion. Before he knew it, Naruto was the only person standing on the once crowded dock. Well, that's different, Naruto mumbled to himself, looking back to the ship containing the red-haired pirates. Normally most people don't pay much attention to pirates, since they bring income into a town normally by purchasing supplies and alcohol. Though there is the few crews who only wish to steal and destroy. But most towns still wait till the crew causes a problem before running in fear or taking action. Naruto started to walk off the dock towards the town. They could have recognized Uncle Shank's Jolly Roger. He is one of the 4 emperors after all, so maybe they are fearful of what he could do. Even though the red-haired pirates are notorious for being friendly and wanting nothing but to party and get drunk. Naruto entered the main street of the village, bringing a hand to his chin, while walking through the barren street. No, that couldn't be it. They said another crew was attacking. They never said red-haired pirates. So those fishermen didn't recognize Uncle Shank's ship. They must believe we are just some regular old crew. So the most likely scene EO is a pirate crew or multiple crews have attacked this town before, leaving all the townsfolk afraid of pirates. Sighing to himself, Naruto noticed people watching his every move from windows all around him. Well, there is only one reason I'm really here. So having the village shun me like this doesn't matter. The blonde pirate mumbled with a small laugh. I'm just here to find a certain group of people to fight. Closing his eyes, Naruto started to reach R with his haki. He quickly felt his uncle and the rest of the red-hair pirates approaching the docks. He also felt every man, woman and child within the village. Though what confused the blonde was that was it. He couldn't sense anyone else outside of the village. Was Uncle Shanks lying to me? 'Cause there isn't any human life outside the village. Naruto mumbled to himself. However, eventually he felt something. Wait, now I sense one person coming from the forest. And it appears like this mystery person is running towards the town. Naruto cocked a smile as he ran towards the person he sensed. Hoping said person could have any information on the clan of swordsmen, which Naruto wanted to fight against. Quickly Naruto found himself leaving the village and entering the large forest. His adrenaline was pumping fast, since whoever Naruto was tracking seemed to moving at rather impressive speeds. Showing some form of above-average strength. While Naruto ran, he rested one hand on the hilt of Kurama. His excitement starting to get the better of himself. He was forgetting about where he was or what he were doing. All the blonde-haired pirate was thinking about was the opportunity to fight a strong foe. Eventually Naruto shot through the tree line and stumbled into an open field. Leaving himself exposed in the open, but allowing him to see the person he had sensed, who was standing before him with a scowl on his face. Identify yourself, the newly arrived male demanded, his eyes narrowing on Naruto's attire. From the insignia I can only assume you are a pirate. And I received a call from the village that pirates were invading. So unfortunate for you, I must carry out my duty and kill you. Naruto cocked an eyebrow at the boy before him. He appeared to be the same age as Naruto, though he dressed in a much different fashion. For starters, the teen had long spiky black hair, which was held down by a black piece of cloth. His upper body consisted of a long sleeve and high collar black shirt that had a large gray strap across his chest. On the strap itself there was a symbol that resembled a red and white fan. On the lower portion of his body, the boy had black pants and matching black sandals. Though the object which Naruto paid most attention to was his sword, which was strapped to the boy's hip. But oddly enough, the sword did not have any type of guard on the hilt. So you wish to kill me, huh? Naruto asked in an offhanded tone, slowly unsheathing Kurama. And I thought pirates were supposed to be the bad guys. But here you are attacking me out of nowhere. The teen frowned and drew his own sword, causing Naruto to smile a little. This coming for the pirate who ran straight through the town towards me. And besides, you look like you want to dance. The boy pointed out. Naruto dropped into a fighting stance, holding Kurama firmly out in front of him. Maybe I do. Are you going to keep me waiting? The clearing was silent for a moment. Neither teen making the slightest move towards each other. After a moment, Naruto made a slight twitch, causing both boys to grip their swords and dash forward, their blades meeting in the middle of the clearing with a loud clang. You're not half bad, the raven-haired teen praised, struggling against Naruto's sword. Naruto gritted his teeth and tried to push the teen back. You're not that bad yourself. The future pirate captain chuckled. The boy smirked and moved Naruto's sword to the side, leaving the blonde wide open. So to capitalize on the newly made opportunity, the boy sent a swift kick towards Naruto's head. Left kick to the head. Naruto mumbled as he caught the boy's foot. Said boy looked at Naruto with wide eyes. He should Avenue been distracted by his sword and not anticipated the surprise kick to the head. Naruto yanked the boy's foot, causing him to fall backwards. However, the unarmed swordsman was able to overcome his shock by placing one hand on the ground and flipping away from Naruto. I don't know what that was, but I'm going to start taking this fight seriously. The boy admitted, closing his eyes. Only to open them again to reveal a red eyeball with a six-pointed black star for a pupil. Let's see how you handle my devil fruit powers. Naruto smirked and held one hand up, turning his hand into a small twister of wind. Fine, we can speed this little dance up. The wind man replied with a small laugh. Though before we start, it's only proper that we introduce ourselves. I am Silver's Naruto future P. Irate captain and eater of the K's no mi. The boy let out a small grunt. My name is Sasuke Uchiha, protector of this island and future pirate bounty hunter. My devil fruit is well, how about I just show you? Naruto let a made grin slip past his face. So you are a member of the Uchiha clan. In that case, Naruto dashed forward and clashed blades with Sasuke. I've been waiting a while for a fight like this. Sasuke let a small grin of his own slip by, their swords fighting for dominance. Then how about I show you something unique? The Uchiha replied, his eyes starting to spin. Amaterasu. Naruto's eyes grew wide, as he watched black flames shoot out of Sasuke's eyes. However, Naruto manipulated the wind around his body and forced the fire to travel off to the side and around him. Then by pushing Sasuke's sword to the side, Naruto kicked the raven-haired teen in the chest, knocking him away. What the hell was that? Naruto asked with a slight amount of interest, trying his hardest to figure out the boy's abilities. I know you're not a Logia type. Because I didn't use haki in my kick. So what kind of fruit did you eat? Sasuke raised an eyebrow. So you know how to use haki. Little people in the South Blue even know what haki is. Now that I think about it, this explains how you predicted my attack earlier. The Uchiha swordsman replied, showing he knew what haki was, causing Naruto to assume that Sasuke knew how to use haki of his own. However, I guess I can at least tell you the name of my devil fruit. It's called the Sharingan no Mi, Model Amaterasu. Naruto was more than excited. His expectations for this fight were only growing. That's nice, but I've decided that I'm done with this talking. Show me the power that made your clan so famous. The blonde demanded, already charging forward. I'd be happy to. Sasuke replied, as he ran after Naruto. Both boys finally deciding to give this fight their all. Naruto and Sasuke ran after each other at remarkable speeds. Both teenagers meeting once more in the middle of the clearing. Sasuke brought his sword towards Naruto's side, while the blonde quickly moved to parry the strike. Then while their blades fiercely clashed, the sound of metal striking filled the clearing. So you pirate filth, I'll allow you one opportunity to surrender now. And maybe, just maybe, I'll let you walk away alive. Sasuke taunted in an arrogant tone, trying to make Naruto lose his cool. Naruto rolled his eyes and pushed Sasuke back, making the raven-haired teen nearly lose his footing. Please, like I'm intimidated by you. I've trained for years with my father and uncle. I'm the one who should be giving you the chance to surrender. Sasuke grunted and his pupils started to spin. Fine, have it your way. Amaterasu. The boy called out, shooting a black stream of fire out of his eyes. The bottom half of Naruto's body shifted into a mini twister. Then before the black flames could come close to him, Naruto quickly moved to the side and avoided the attack. Then his body reformed back to its original state. Naruto then watched as the flames landed on a tree behind him. Though interestingly enough, the tree did not set ablaze. In fact, the fire seemed to just stay in one place, never spreading over the dry wood. That's some curious fire you have there, Naruto commented, moving his attention back over to Sasuke. Care to explain why it doesn't burn anything? Sasuke smirked and the Amaterasu flames faded out of existence. Oh, trust me, my flames burn, but my Amaterasu will only burn what I want to burn. The teen replied, giving Naruto a little bit of information on his abilities. And right now the only thing I want to burn is your little wind body. Naruto placed Kurama into its sheath. Then by bringing a hand high into the air, he cocked a grin. Yeah, wind does help fuel fire and make it stronger. But a mighty wind can completely snuff out any flame. Naruto explained, right before a large gust of wind nearly carried Sasuke off his feet, but the teen managed to stab his sword in the ground and hold himself in place. After a moment the wind died down and Sasuke relaxed himself, already slightly panting this early in their fight. Is that really the best you got? The teen asked, trying to mask his panting. Naruto recoiled his fist back for a punch, channeling his Busoshoku haki to coat his hand in black armor. Trust me, you haven't seen nothing yet. The blonde pirate mumbled, already starting to swing his fist forward. Sasuke watched with interest. His devil fruit allowed him to read people's movements, so he could see Naruto moving at a slower than normal pace. He is too far away to hit me with a punch. However, he is using Busoshoku haki, so he is planning something. Sasuke mused in thought. Naruto shot his fist forward. Hurricane punch. The blonde shouted, sending his fist rocketing forward. Sasuke's eyes grew wide. The only thing he saw before getting punched in the face was a black blur. The force of the punch was enough to send Sasuke off his feet and into the tree line. Naruto's fist quickly retracted back to his body. Then by letting out a small smile, he looked over his shoulders. So how long have you all been here? The blonde asked, looking to his adopted brother and the entire red hair pirate crew. Konohamaru ran over to Naruto and started to jump up and down. Only a few minutes. But damn Naruto, you are so cool. That other guy stands no chance against you. The little brother shouted happily. Naruto ruffled Konohamaru's hair and watched his uncle walk over. Yeah, your big brother is pretty strong and cool. The elder brother replied, filling up his own ego. Shanks slapped his nephew on his backside and started to laugh. Don't get so cocky yet, Naruto. That boy you were fighting looked like a real scrapper. I doubt one punch would do him in. Yeah, you were right about that. The voice of Sasuke shouted. Naruto turned around and watched. As the raven-haired teen staggered into the clearing. Blood slightly dripping off his nose and lip. Now I'm going to warn you pirates once. Get out of this village or I will kill you all. The clearing was silent for a moment. Every member of the red-haired pirates looked at Sasuke with an emotionless gaze. Though only after a few seconds the entire crew including Naruto burst into laughter. Yas. Op held his stomach and rolled on his back, his legs flailing wildly in the air. This kid is too damn funny. The marksman yelled loudly. Ben placed a hand over his face and silently laughed to himself. Kid's got guts, I'll give him that. But he's gonna need more than guts to take on our crew by himself. Sasuke gritted his teeth and held his sword forward. Silence yourselves before I run you through with my sword. The team demanded, speaking towards the laughing pirates. Naruto waved his hands in the air, already bored with Sasuke. You know what, I'm disappointed and bored. Kono, you can fight him. The experience should be good for you. The eldest brother chuckled, already walking over to his fellow crew members. Konohamaru grinned ear from ear and grabbed his pistol. Alright, I'll fight for you and make you proud. The small boy chuckled, loading a small black ball into his weapon. Naruto held a thumbs up and continued to walk. I know you will, Kono. Just be careful, Sasuke might be a little too much for you to handle. Quote. Sasuke growled in anger, feeling insulted by Naruto's actions. What's the matter, coward? Are you too afraid to fight me that you would send a small child in your place? The Uchiha asked in an angered voice. Naruto ignored Sasuke and went over to stand by Ben. Shanks on the other hand bent down and placed his one hand on Kono. Listen, Kono, fight with your all and remember everything you've learned. I know you will do fine, and if anything goes wrong, either me or your brother will step in to help you. The red-haired captain explained. Rising to his feet after his little pep talk, Konohamaru gave a small salute and smiled. Don't worry, Captain, I'll be fine. The small boy replied. Shanks nodded and walked over to his crew. Sasuke on the other hand gritted his teeth. None of the pirates were taking him serious at all. Which pissed him off beyond belief. You are going to regret challenging me, kid. Sasuke growled, bringing up his sword. I'll chop you in half. Konohamaru pointed his gun towards Sasuke with little emotion. Then without hesitating he fired a single bullet at Sasuke. The raven-haired swordsman used his enhanced vision to his advantage. He quickly brought his sword forward and sliced through the bullet. However, this was a mistake for Sasuke. Considering the bullet exploded into a cloud of black smoke. Let me show you where my name comes from. Konohamaru mumbled, holstering his pistol and grabbing his bow staff. Sasuke had his eyes sealed shut, he couldn't see anything thanks to the smoke. He was inwardly cursing himself from falling into a trap from such a small child. Speaking of Konohamaru, the small pirate charged into the smoke cloud. Then by using his Kanbunshoku haki he began to attack Sasuke. He started his assault with a series of fast strikes to Sasuke's stomach, face and thighs. The Uchiha attempted to retaliate by wildly swinging his sword, hoping to hit Konohamaru. Though every strike missed thanks to Konohamaru's haki aiding him in the fight. So the small pirate continued to dance around the smoke and strike the blinded Sasuke. Eventually Sasuke got sick and tired of a child making him look so weak. So he opened his eyes and looked to the ground, summoning a circle of black flames around his body. Konohamaru sensed Sasuke's actions and felt the heat from the Amaterasu flames near him. So to avoid being burned, Konohamaru hopped his way backwards and away from Sasuke. Naruto smirked as he watched his little brother. Sasuke was clearly the stronger of the two, but Konohamaru was fighting smart. You're doing good, Kono. But don't let your guard down. He will be onto your smoke tactic now. The eldest brother advised, his hand resting on Kurama. Ready to act and save Konohamaru if he needed to. Don't worry Ni-chan, I know what I'm doing. I'm your little brother after all. Konohamaru replied, making sure to keep his attention focused on Sasuke, who was still within the smoke cloud. Suddenly the cloud parted and Sasuke came running out. His Sharingan spinning wildly as he ran towards Konohamaru. You little bastard! Sasuke yelled in anger, quickly bringing his sword up and then down onto Konohamaru. I'm going to make you pay. Konohamaru lifted his staff up to protect himself. Though the small child found it rather hard to fend Sasuke off, as he had superior strength. So Konohamaru quickly found himself being pushed back, while Sasuke slashed his sword in every direction he could. Trying his hardest to bring harm to Konohamaru. Damn it! Konohamaru grunted, trying his hardest to push Sasuke's swords back. This can't be happening. Looks like the tables have turned brat. Sasuke pointed out, dropping low to the ground and kicking Konohamaru's feet out from under him. Konohamaru fell onto his backside and his eyes grew wide. His eyes focused on Sasuke's blade, that was raised high into the air and ready to strike. However, before Sasuke could even blink, a strong foot planted itself into his chest, sending him shooting off into the forest once more. Come on Kono. Naruto mumbled, standing defensively over his brother. I would have expected you to put up a much better fight than that. Konohamaru picked himself up off the ground and looked down. I'm more of a ranged fighter, but it's hard going up against someone who is stronger than you. Naruto nodded and folded his arms. Yeah, I know what you mean, but go over there by Uncle Shanks. I'm going to go finish this fight off. The blonde pirate explained, slowly walking over to where Sasuke was sent flying. Suddenly a purple hand came crashing out of the forest. Naruto stopped in his tracks and waited with interest. Then watched as Sasuke walked back into the clearing. His body surrounded by a large upper torso, which was constructed from some purple energy. Susanoo. Sasuke mumbled, slowly stalking his way towards Naruto. A large purple bow being formed on the wrist of the giant surrounding Sasuke. Naruto drew Kurama and took a slight step back. What the hell is that thing? Naruto mumbled in shock. From his standpoint it looked like a physical manifestation of Sasuke's willpower. Sasuke started to laugh and held his hands out. This is the ultimate technique that my devil fruit has. This is my Susanoo and the last thing you will see before you die. Naruto allowed Sasuke's words to sink in. So it's linked with your devil fruit. Naruto replied, holding in a smirk as he eyed Kurama's black blade. That's unfortunate for you Sasuke. Since I'm going to slice your little Susanoo into pieces. Sasuke's laughter started to grow ever louder. Please, nothing can get past my Susanoo. It is the ultimate defense and offense mixed into one. Naruto slightly bent over, his hair overshadowing his eyes. Then in a fraction of a second, Naruto appeared in front of Sasuke. Game over. The blonde mumbled, swiping Kurama through Sasuke's Susanoo with ease. Cutting a large gash across the boy's chest. Causing blood to gush out. Sasuke's eyes rolled back and he coughed up blood. His Susanoo fading away as he fell over. Naruto looked over his defeated foe and sheathed Kurama. You have potential to be great, but for now, you're a small fish in a big pond. Remember that Sasuke. Then saying nothing more, Naruto walked off towards the town. Someone should help him before he bleeds out. I'm gonna go find some place to serve me some ramen. A few hours later. It had been a few hours since Sasuke was beaten and left unconscious by Naruto. During this lapse of time, Sasuke had been patched up by the doctor of the red-haired pirates and left in his care. While the rest of the crew explored the town, some went into small shops for supplies, and others ventured into various bars across town. Naruto on the other hand left in search of a place that served his favorite dish. To his delight he managed to find an establishment, which served ramen. So currently Naruto was sitting on a bar stool with Konohamaru. Both boys enjoying their own bowls of noodles. Naruto slurped loudly as he had his lips pressed against his 10th bowl of ramen. While he ate, the owner of the small ramen bar stood off to the side, eyeing Naruto and Konohamaru with a frightened gaze. However, the owner wasn't the only one afraid of the two boys. Since scattered throughout the various tables within the building were random civilians, who were all eating their meals in silence, their eyes never once moving away from either boy. Naruto was aware of how the townsfolk were behaving. Though the blonde-haired pirate didn't care. He came to fight some strong swordsmen and that plan fell through. So now all he wanted was to eat his fill of ramen. "Hey old man," Naruto called out, making the ramen cook flinch. "You make some damn good ramen. Give me another 3 bowls." Konohamaru giggled at his brother's near-limitless appetite. "Yuto, do you ever get tired of eating ramen? Surely there is a much better alternative for something to eat." Naruto looked at his younger brother like the small pirate had grown a second head. "Are you crazy? Ramen is the food of the gods. Nothing, and I mean nothing, beats ramen, Kono." Konohamaru fiddled with the noodles inside his bowl. He loved and admired his older brother, but sometimes he didn't understand the blonde's habits. "Whatever you say, Ni-chan," Konohamaru mumbled in an exhausted voice, his attention not focused on his brother. Naruto narrowed his eyes, but the sound of ramen being laid before him changed his attitude. Naruto quickly looked towards his ramen with a joyful expression and began to dive into his food. While he did so, Naruto was completely oblivious to the man. Ho entered the building and was slowly approaching him. While the man walked, the room of civilians seemed to relax, almost like they were no longer afraid of Naruto or Konohamaru's presence. That looks rather delicious. I think I'll have some ramen as well." The man spoke up, taking a seat beside Naruto. "Greetings, Dark Prince San," the man spoke in a calm and emotionless voice. His atentio peaked. Naruto looked out of the corner of his left eye, taking notice that a male had sat beside him, one who heavily resembled Sasuke. However, there was a few key differences from Sasuke and the newly arrived man beside him. The unnamed man beside Naruto had key facial features almost identical to Sasuke, though his demeanor seemed more calm and collected. Also, unlike Sasuke, the newly arrived man had his jet black hair tied into a small ponytail, with 2 long bangs framing his face. Naruto also took a slight moment to observe the man's attire. He wore a plain black shirt with the Uchiha clan symbol on the back. He had bandages around his ankles, and black sandals on his feet. He wore tan pants with a weapons pouch strapped to his back. The most important characteristic Naruto noted as the small tanto strapped on the man's back. "So from your looks I can assume you're an Uchiha like Sasuke." Naruto started in a bored tone, continuing to casually eat his ramen. "And here I thought he was the only Uchiha on this island. So tell me, who are you?" The man remained emotionless, though his lips curled into a tiny smile. He found Naruto's personality refreshing and different. "My name is Itachi Uchiha. I am Sasuke's older brother." Naruto nodded and kept his focus on his ramen. Konohamaru on the other hand looked over his brother. "So if you're that Sasuke guy's brother, how come we didn't see you earlier?" the small pirate asked. Itachi watched as a bowl of ramen was laid out to him. "Thank you," the Uchiha spoke to the chef before starting to eat, causing Konohamaru's eye to twitch. "I was watching you since the moment you arrived on the island," Itachi eventually revealed, surprising Konohamaru. "What, no way?" Konohamaru shouted loudly. "How were you watching us without anyone noticing us?" Naruto sighed as he finished his last bowl of ramen. Well, he had an advantage since no one was looking for him. The blonde explained before Itachi could speak. "Though I'm curious to a few things. Like why this town's so afraid of pirates. And why your brother wanted to chase us out of town, but you did nothing beside watch us." Itachi took a moment to collect his thoughts. He closed his eyes and stopped eating his ramen. "Well, your first question is an easy one. This town has had a bad relationship with pirates in the past. Now as for my brother, that's a little more complicated." Itachi took a pause and locked his fingers together and leaned over the bar counter. "See, Sasuke hates all pirates because a pirate killed our entire family." Naruto frowned and looked towards the older teen. "So Sasuke hates all pirates because of what one crew did," the infamous Dark Prince summarized. "That's just stupid." Itachi nodded and sighed. "Yes, my little brother is rather foolish. However, don't get the wrong idea. My clan was killed by one pirate, not an entire crew. Regardless of that small fact, I do not judge people for what others have done. So that's why I have no desire to fight you or your crew. Now Naruto was intrigued, no wonder he couldn't find the clan. They were all dead save Sasuke, Itachi and any other members who may be hiding around somewhere. I was really looking forward to fighting some members of the great Uchiha clan. Mind explain as to how your clan was murdered. I'm curious as to how one man could kill off so many people who were supposed to be some of the best of the best. Naruto said, his curiosity getting the better of him. Itachi remained silent for a moment. Though after a moment he shook his head. Maybe another day, Dark Prince San. For now I'm here to thank you for taking it easy on my brother. Also I need to thank your crew for taking care of his injuries. He is a very stubborn individual and it makes my job as a brother difficult. Naruto frowned at the lack of information. However, he decided to brush it off. He knew talking about deaths involving family wasn't pleasant conversation. Don't mention it, as an older brother myself. Naruto stopped and ruffled Konohamaru's hair. I know the pain of watching out for a younger sibling. Itachi smiled at Naruto's words. It brought the Uchiha joy to find someone who cared for his brother like he did Sasuke. Konohamaru on the other hand swatted Naruto's hand away and looked towards Itachi. I have a question. If you don't hate pirates like Sasuke does, why did you watch us? Also, why didn't you show up during Naruto and Sasuke's fight? You could have saved him from getting injured. The brown-haired child pointed out, waiting rather impatiently for a reply. Well, to answer your questions, I watched you and your crew to gauge if you were a threat. See, like I said, this town has had an issue with pirates in the past. Normally the Uchiha clan would be the defenders of the town. Though since my entire family beside me and my brother are dead, it is up to us to protect this island from invaders. Itachi explained, causing Naruto to nod and Konohamaru to lean in closer. Though Sasuke's methods are different than mine, he prefers the head-on approach. Though I find that method foolish and can lead to an early grave. So my style is stealth and I only attack if the pirates are a threat to the village. But your crew is different from all the rest. Naruto smirked proudly and pointed a thumb to the red-haired pirate's insignia that was on his clothing. I take it that you know who we are. Itachi simply nodded. Yes, I know about you too, your captain and even some of your other members. A fight against you all alone is suicide. Something my little bro there either didn't know or didn't care about. Itachi then turned to Naruto and his eyes morphed into a three-pointed pinwheel. However, regardless of your power, to ensure the peace of this island is secured, I would have fought you all if need be. The Uchiha explained, revealing he was a devil fruit user. Though his eyes quickly shifted back to their original onyx black color. Though I'm rather glad that we didn't have to fight. Naruto was interested by the man's mention of the word peace. Though he was even more interested by the man's abilities. Your eyes are just like Sasuke. It's raw. For two brothers to both have devil fruits. And it appears that you both have very similar abilities. Mind sharing them with me? The blonde asked. Itachi simply nodded his head. He didn't have a problem with talking about his abilities. I guess since you took care of Sasuke I can tell you about me in return. Itachi replied, his eyes turning into his Sharingan once more. See, our clan once had 4 devil fruits of the same kind. 2 were stolen and 2 were gifted to members of the Uchiha clan. My devil fruit is called the Sharingan no Mi, model Tsukuyomi. Though I also have some other abilities like how to use all 3 forms of haki. Unlike my brother who can only use Busoshoku haki. Then lastly I have my Tanto, which I'm rather proficient with. That is why I don't use the traditional katana like my brother and clan. Naruto and Konohamaru looked towards the raven-haired teen with amazement. Never expecting to find someone with such rare abilities in a place like the South Blue. Wow, that's amazing, you have Houshoku haki just like my dad, uncle and brother. Konohamaru shouted loudly, causing Itachi to look at Naruto. You have Houshoku haki as well, Dark Prince San. I guess we are both rather similar. Itachi pointed out. Naruto let a small smile pass his lips. Yes, we are, and if my hearing was right. You spoke of keeping the peace. Well, my dream is to one day being peace to the world. The blonde-haired pirate revealed, piquing Itachi's interest as he raised an eyebrow. Oh, now that's an Admiral Gold, Dark Prince San. One that I too would love to accomplish. Though, I'm rather curious as to how a pirate would bring peace to the world. Naruto smirked and leaned against the bar counter. Well, I don't plan staying in my uncle's crew forever. Naruto revealed, shocking Itachi with his relation to Shanks. I plan to start my own crew in 2 years. When the time comes to start my crew, we will be finishing our travels in the West Blue with the Red Hair Pirates. And me and my crew will head through the North Blue and after that the East Blue. We will gain power before heading off into the Grand Line and lastly the New World. Konohamaru nodded and jumped in on the conversation. Yeah, we are the future Fujin pirates. The heroes who will bring peace to the entire world. The younger brother declared proudly. Itachi seemed a little impressed by the two boys' plans and ambitions. So I take it the two of you are members of the Fujin pirates. Though who else is tagging along on your little journey to world peace? The Uchiha asked, causing both boys to smile wildly. What are you talking about? Right now it's just me and Kono. We haven't recruited anyone into our crew yet. Naruto replied, causing Itachi to sigh. Maybe me and him aren't that alike after all. He's just as foolish as my brother. Itachi thought to himself. Dark Prince San, do you really believe you and your little brother can possibly bring peace to the world without any kind of plan or powerful crew to back you up? Konohamaru titled his head in confusion. But that's why we are traveling the world. We are going to have an amazing adventure. And form a powerful crew to help bring peace to the world. The youngest of the three explained. That's great, but you need more than that if you want peace. I know just as well as anyone how evil and twisted the world is. I know that why. Oh, you need a strong plan and even stronger companions to come even close to grasping true peace. Itachi explained, quickly shutting Konohamaru down. Naruto remained silent. Itachi was right. He was allowing his dreams of becoming a pirate to cloud his judgment. If Naruto wanted to being peace, something needed to change. You have a point, Itachi, but tell me. What would you do? How would you go about creating a world of peace? Naruto asked, his demeanor turning completely serious. Itachi gave Naruto a sly grin. I have an idea, Dark Prince San. And I'm willing to help you achieve your goal of world peace. However, I would like something in return from you. Itachi explained, causing Naruto to raise an eyebrow. Alright Itachi, if you will help me and my brother. I'm willing to make a compromise with you. Naruto replied quickly. Itachi nodded and rose to his feet. Follow me, Dark Prince San. We can talk somewhere more private. And then let's make a deal. Naruto moved out of his seat and tossed some money on the counter. Then without saying anything, Naruto and Konohamaru both followed Itachi out of the building. All three males taking the first steps into their futures. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX With Sasuke. Sasuke weakly opened his eyes and cringed. A sharp pain quickly shooting across his chest. Damn it, he exclaimed loudly, gripping down on his freshly bandaged body. What happened? Where am I? Sasuke looked around and found himself tucked into a bed inside a small room. However, he quickly found out that he was not alone. Seems like you are awake. The calm voice of Shanks spoke up, grabbing Sasuke's attention as he snapped his eyes forward. You. Sasuke growled in a low voice. You are one of the pirates that was with that annoying blonde. Shanks rubbed his hand through his red locks. My name is Shanks and I'm captain of this ship you are on. The very same ship whose doctor patched you up instead of allowing you to bleed out in the forest. Also, by the way, that blonde who kicked your ass has a name as well. It's Naruto, but as his uncle I can vouch as to how annoying he can be. Shanks began to laugh loudly and slap his knee, causing Sasuke's eyes to twitch. I can see the family resemblance. Annoying and loud, the Uchiha replied, showing his dislike for Shanks and Naruto. Shanks moved up to his feet and started to laugh. God, that stick is jammed really high up your ass. I can easily tell that you are Fugaku's son. The pirate captain laughed out, making Sasuke jerk upright. You knew my father. The boy more shouted than asked. How do you know him? Explain yourself to me. I've traveled the entire world multiple times. So this isn't my first time on this island, Sasuke. Though I'm rather curious as to where your family is. I don't feel your father or your mother anywhere on this island. Also the area where your clan compound is located feels barren and empty. Shanks replied with a slight frown. Don't tell me something happened to them. Quote. Sasuke looked down and gripped the sheets of the bed, his eyes flaring with rage. A bastard pirate killed my entire family. Me and my brother are the only ones who survived. Sasuke explained, looking back up to the red-haired pirate. I hate that man for what he did. And I hate his kind just as much. Shanks had to fight back his laughter. He could believe how the young teen was acting. It seemed rather foolish to him. So you hate pirates cause one killed your family. TCH, you sound like my nephew. You see, a marine killed his mother. My dear older sister Kushina. So I've noticed over the years Naruto has held a certain disliking for marines. He never admits it, but I can tell he enjoys bringing harm to marines and causing problems for the world government. Sasuke seemed to lighten up a bit at this. Naruto was someone who he could relate to in some ways. And what about you? This Kushina was your sister. Don't you hate the marines for taking her away? Sasuke quickly asked, waiting impatiently for an answer. Shanks sighed and pinched the bridge of his nose. Do I hate marines? No. Do I hate the man who killed my sister and turned my nephew into a slave? Absolutely. But that man is long dead. So there is no need to hold on to my hatred. The pirate captain explained, slowly walking towards the door of the room. You and Naruto both need to stop hating types of people for actions of one man. Though you both are still young and stupid. Maybe time will change your attitudes. Shanks opened the door and looked over to Sasuke. If you need anything, feel free to walk the ship. And if you feel like leaving, you may do so. We are still docked after all. Sasuke nodded and did not reply. Instead he watched as Shanks left him alone with his thoughts. So he has lost family as well. Is that the reason that makes him so strong? Did losing his mother push him to become so strong? Sasuke asked himself. If I'm going to avenge my family, I must become stronger than I already am. With Naruto. Naruto and Konohamaru followed Itachi through the town. As the trio walked, every civilian eyed them with caution. To the townsfolk, Itachi was their village hero while Naruto and Konohamaru were evil pirates. So seeing the three of them calmly walking together confused many onlookers. Itachi paid no attention to the various looks he was receiving. Instead he looked over his shoulder to Naruto. We will be there in a few minutes. The Uchiha informed in a monotone voice. Naruto nodded and continued to follow Itachi in silence. Eventually the three boys departed off into the forest and started to travel down a long overgrown path. Konohamaru looked around his surrounds and decided to speak up. Hey Itachi, this looks like an old trail, but some of the forest has started to grow over it. Mind explaining why that is? Itachi chuckled at the boy's observation skills and kept walking. This leads to the Uchiha compound. So with only 2 Uchiha left living, this path doesn't get much use anymore. However, it's the quickest route from the town to the compound. Naruto narrowed his eyes. I'm confused, Itachi. Why are you taking us to the Uchiha compound? The blonde asked, picking up his speed to walk alongside Itachi. Itachi remained emotionless. I have something I need to fetch from my house. I know I'm not making much sense, but I promise everything will come together soon. Naruto accepted the elder male's reply and continued to walk in silence. After a moment of walking, a large wall and gate could be seen off in the distance. As Naruto and company approached the gate, he noticed the Uchiha family crest painted proudly along the walls of the compound. When the 3 boys walked through the gates, however, the sight made Konohamaru gasp and Naruto narrow his eyes. The compound appeared to hold over 20 homes and buildings. Though over half were burned to the ground, while others were barely left standing. Itachi paid no mind to the state of his home and walked towards the far back, where the largest house was located. Naruto assumed this was the home of the clan head, considering its size and how elegant it looked. Even though the building was halfway destroyed, but interestingly enough, Naruto noticed that small construction sites could be spotted in different areas of the compound, leading Naruto to conclude that Sasuke and Itachi might be trying to rebuild their compound. Itachi stopped at the entrance to the main household and looked at Naruto. Tell me something before I continue. What happened in your life that made you want to bring peace to the world? Itachi asked while motioning around with his hands. Because for someone to truly want peace, they must suffer through a terrible hardship. This is my hardship, the death of everyone I knew and loved besides my brother Sasuke. Naruto bit his lip and looked down. Subconsciously he grabbed his chest. 3 years ago I was out walking with my mother. We ran into 2 celestial dragons who wanted my mother for themselves. She resisted and I used my devil fruit powers to protect her. But they had a vice admiral with them. He easily overpowered me and killed my mother. Though instead of killing me as well, he gave me over to the 2 celestial dragons as a slave. Naruto then let a small smile grace his lips. Though I guess being a slave was a blessing in disguise. After all, that's where I met my adopted brother Konohamaru. Itachi nodded in the information, but he was curious as to how Naruto escaped from his life as a slave. However, Itachi quickly remembered reading about Naruto in the news. He was at Mariajoy during the biggest slave rebellion in history. He was one responsible for over 7 celestial dragons' deaths. Remembering this answered some of Itachi's questions, but left him with one more. Tell me, was it you who was responsible for the slave rebellion 3 years ago? Itachi asked in a low voice. Because a lot of people lost their lives that day. Everyone from slaves and marines to celestial dragons were listed in the death toll. Yes, I was responsible, as I couldn't live with myself if I escaped and left all those people behind. I saw a lot of horrible things in Mariajoy. So I wanted to help as many people as I could. Naruto replied as he started to frown. The deaths of all those marines and celestial dragons were necessary. They had no problem with keeping another life as a piece of property. So I had no issue with taking their life. Itachi slightly frowned. Naruto had traits that were similar to his own. Though the more he got to know the blonde, the more he saw his younger brother Sasuke. They are both similar and without the proper guidance, could walk down a dangerous path. Itachi thought to himself, turning around to his home. I'm going to go fetch something and I shall be back shortly. Naruto and Konohamaru nodded and watched Itachi disappear into the house. Hey Ni-chan. Konohamaru began when Itachi was out of earshot. What do you think happened here? I know he said a pirates attacked and killed his family. But you are curious as to how one man could kill a family of strong swordsmen. Naruto cut in, taking a moment to observe the area. Honestly Kono, I have no idea. You know just as well as I do that this world has some very powerful individuals. Though I have to say what started to confuse me was when we arrived here at the compound. All the houses appear to be demolished and most of the damage appears to be from a fire source. Quote. Konohamaru squinted his eyes. Wait, you said appears. Does that mean something else could have caused this damage? The smaller pirate asked. Naruto nodded and pointed off to another building. Don't get me wrong, there are plenty of signs that show fire damage. Though look over there and you can see something a little different. The elder boy explained, ca. Using Konohamaru to tilt his head in confusion. It looks like it's been melted, and now that you mention it, a lot of these houses and buildings have the same type of damage. But now I'm confused, was this compound burned or melted? And how did one person manage to do all of this? Konohamaru asked. Naruto frowned. He grabbed onto Kurama's hilt and started to squeeze the sword. I can only think of one way something can be melted and burned. Which makes me wonder when this Uchiha massacre took place. Naruto then looked to the door frame of the main household, where Itachi stood emotionlessly. Care to explain when this happened? Itachi frowned. He didn't like talking about the day he lost his family, but telling Naruto when it happened couldn't hurt. 2 years ago, he answered simply, causing Naruto scowl. That wasn't the answer I was looking for. But I'd assume that is for the best. Naruto explained, changing his attention to the paper in Itachi's hand. A vivre card. What in the hell is that for? Also, you already know what this is. Well, that saves me an explanation. Itachi replied as he pocketed the vivre card. Let's head towards your ship, we have a few things to discuss after all. Captain. Konohamaru tossed his hands in the air and started to laugh. He looks like we got a new crew member, Ni-chan. The younger sibling shouted out. Naruto smiled and turned towards the exit of the compound. Yes, it looks like we do. We are already working our way to a strong crew. The blonde spoke happily, already beginning to head towards his uncle's ship with his future crew. Red-haired pirate ship. On the deck of the red-haired pirate's ship, Ben and Yasopp were glaring at each other, both men engaged in a heated argument. In between the two powerful men, was their captain Uzumaki Shanks, who was trying to play the peacemaker in the situation. "Pay up Yasopp, I won the bet," Ben declared as he held his hand out to the man. "Naruto defeated every member of the Uchiha clan." Yasopp pointed a finger at his friend and growled, "No way, that's bullshit. That brat only beat one kid and it was a terribly one-sided fight." "I'm not paying you jack shit," the sharpshooter replied stubbornly. Shanks sighed as he looked between his two strongest men. "Do you two always have to bicker?" the captain asked with a sigh. "Don't answer that question cause I already that it is a yes, but that's not important. Yasopp, if you made a bet you should honor the deal you made. Regardless of what happened." Ben let a cocky smirk pass his lips. "You heard the captain, pay up, bitch," the second in command ordered. Yasopp began to grumble about annoying assholes, while he grabbed his wallet. Though the arrival of a new voice stopped him. "Technically you didn't win your little bet." The voice of Sasuke spoke up, making his presence known to the pirates. The three men looked over to the raven-haired teen, each man giving the boy a different look. Ben frowned and Yasopp seemed to smile, but Shanks merely sighed. He knew another fight was about to break out. "What do you mean I didn't win the bet? Naruto kicked your ass and you were the only Uchiha on this island. So by the rules of the bet I win," Ben replied. Sasuke shook his head and walked forward. "But I'm not the only Uchiha on the island. There is still my older brother Itachi. So Naruto only beat half of the remaining Uchiha clan." Yasopp made a loud laugh and did a spin on his heels. "Haha, eat shit, you chain-smoking bastard. You didn't win the bet, so I don't have to pay you a single belly," the pirate yelled out in victory. Ben growled in anger, but quickly smiled. "Well, you didn't win either since you said Naruto would beat exactly 6 members of the clan. Well, hate to break it to you, but there is only 2 left. So I still have a chance to win and you don't have any chance," the man revealed, giving a triumphant laugh. Yasopp's eyes grew wide. Ben was right. He was totally screwed either way. Shanks looked between his second-in-command and sharpshooter and began to laugh. "Wow, way to go Yasopp, you didn't think this bet all the way out, did you?" the red-haired captain teased. Sasuke smirked from his viewpoint, but he quickly frowned and searched the area, hoping no one saw him smiling from the antics of pirates. "Hey, what's so funny?" the voice of one Silver's Naruto asked. Shanks, Ben, Yasopp and Sasuke all looked over to Naruto, who was standing with his arms folded and in front of Konohamaru and Itachi. Sasuke seemed a little surprised that his brother was here on the pirate ship. "Oh, nothing much, brat. Just rubbing it in Yasopp's face that I can still win our bet," Ben explained with a devious smile. "All you have to do is find and beat Sasuke's brother." Quote. Itachi raised an eyebrow while Naruto started to get an evil idea. "I could find and beat him. However, is our little deal still up? You remember you'd buy me a whole month worth of ramen." Ben's eyes grew wide while Yasopp's jaw dropped. "I didn't agree to that much," Ben yelled in annoyance at Naruto. The blonde shrugged his shoulders. "So the deal changed," the pirate prankster replied calmly. "Screw that, you were fixing our bet from the start so you would win," Yasopp shouted, cutting in on the conversation. "You know what, just so Ben can't have the satisfaction of winning, I'll buy you a month worth of ramen." Naruto smiled and started to rub his hands together. Either way he went, he was getting free ramen. Shanks sighed as he watched his nephew, thinking that Naruto was just as sneaky as Kushina. "All right Yasopp, you have a deal," Naruto agreed happily, placing his hands across his chest. Konohamaru shook his head, disappointed in his mentor. "You shouldn't have done that, sensei. Paying for Naruto's ramen for a month will take a small fortune," the brown-haired pirate pointed out. Yasopp slumped over and began to cry anime tears. His wallet was going to take a huge hit. But at least Ben didn't get one over him. Shanks chuckled and patted his sharpshooter on the back. "You don't have the best luck, Yasopp," the emperor spoke with a small amount of sorrow in his voice. But Naruto was always cunning like a fox. Oh, and before I forget, who is your new friend there, Naruto? Sasuke stepped forwards and locked eyes with his brother. Itachi, what are you doing here? The younger brother asked, sliding a glance to Naruto. What are you doing here with him? The three members of the red-haired pirates looked to Itachi with interest. All three of them could tell just from a single glance he was much stronger than Sasuke. In fact, Shanks guessed Itachi may even be on par with Naruto. Itachi stepped away from Naruto and poked Sasuke on the forehead. The reason I am here is simple. I'm going to join Naruto-san's pirate crew. The elder brother replied with a small smile. Sasuke's eyes grew wide and his jaw hit the floor. What? The younger Uchiha shouted in rage. Sasuke couldn't believe his ears. His brother, the man whom he looked up to and cared for more than anyone, declared that he would becoming the thing that Sasuke despised most of all, a pirate. Why Itachi? The younger brother asked weakly, his voice filled with a mixture of anger and sadness. He felt betrayed by his older brother's choice. Itachi sighed and closed his eyes. He knew his brother wouldn't react well to the news. Sasuke, you are very smart and very foolish at the same time. The eldest brother started off, taking a moment to look towards Shanks. I know this is your ship, but may we please have a moment of privacy? The four of us need to have a serious conversation. Shanks nodded and motioned for his two men to follow him. Sure, I don't mind giving you some space. The red-haired captain replied, shooting his nephew a gaze. Why don't you try and be more polite like your friend? Naruto growled and looked away from his uncle. 'Cause I have the same personality as my idiot uncle and his amazing sister. The blonde explained, his words earning a snicker from Konohamaru and Yasop. Shanks waved his nephew off and walked away. Yeah, whatever, brat. The red-haired pirate grumbled, as he walked into the ship's crew quarters. His two best men following close behind. When the three men disappeared into the ship, Sasuke walked past Itachi and glared at Naruto. Alright, let's talk. Why is my brother talking about becoming a pirate scum? The Uchiha asked, while turning all his anger towards Naruto. Naruto snarled, he didn't like Sasuke's attitude. And he sure as hell didn't like how arrogant the team could be. For starters, your brother offered to join my crew. Sasuke jerked his eyes back to Itachi. Is that true, Ni-san? Did you offer to join him? The youngest brother asked as he tightened his fists. Itachi walked over to the railing of the ship. Then by looking out onto his hometown he began to speak. You remember just like I do. The screams, the blood and all the death. You remember finding mother and father murdered in our own home. Just like me, you remember and can't forget. Itachi gripped onto the wooden railing, while Sasuke looked down. It was hard for us to lose our family, but that night changed me. Itachi, what are you talking about? You are avoiding my question. Sasuke asked in a confused voice. He never heard his brother talking like this before. I saw the true horror of the world we live in when I saw our family slain across the compound. And for the longest time I've wanted to change this pain-filled world. Itachi began softly as he looked up to the sky. I want peace, little brother. I want a world where a family won't be slaughtered because one man wants more power. Joining Naruto-san's crew will help me reach that goal. Quote. Naruto listened to Itachi's words and decided to step in. We are not your average pirates, Sasuke. Me, my brother and Itachi all know pain. We know how sick and twisted this world is and we want change. We will be the crew of pirates that will bring change to this world. The blonde declared proudly, walking over to stand by Itachi. Konohamaru smiled and walked by his brother's side. He then looked at Sasuke with determination. We are not criminals or people who wish to seek power. Though we are not heroes either. We are pirates who want a kick-ass adventure and peace. We are the Fujin pirates, remember that, Sasuke. Sasuke looked at the pirates before him. One was just a small child no older than 10 years old, but he was already so strong for his age. Then there was Naruto, someone around Sasuke's age with power that even surpassed his brother. And an ambition that matched Itachi spot on. Finally there was his brother and the man Sasuke looked up to more than anyone. He would die for his brother and he knew Itachi would do the same for him. I'm sorry you were upset, Sasuke, but I am leaving. I cannot stay on this island and continue to be content with my life. I need to pursue my dream of peace. Itachi began sadly as he walked over to Sasuke and held out a piece of paper. Here, take this. Sasuke accepted the paper and frowned. A vivre card, he murmured in a low voice. So you are serious about leaving? Itachi nodded and gave his brother a small smile. Yes, but hold on to that vivre card. That way no matter how far away I am, you can always come and find me. Konohamaru smiled at Itachi's actions. You're a good brother, Itachi. The boy complimented happily, though his eyes quickly grew wide. Hey Sasuke, what are you doing? Sasuke crumbled the paper in his hand and tossed it overboard. I don't want to find you, Itachi. He replied coldly, shooting a gaze at Naruto. We promised we would always be there for each other. So if my brother is leaving to become a pirate, I'm coming as well. Naruto narrowed his gaze on Sasuke. He didn't like the boy. Though Naruto respected Sasuke for his loyalty to his brother. Oh Naruto, the teen couldn't be all that bad. I thought you hated pirates. Naruto asked with a small laugh. Now you are wanting to join my crew. Isn't that a little ironic? Sasuke snarled his nose. Please, the only reason I want to tag along is to watch out for my brother. I couldn't give a damn about you or your ambition for peace. Naruto smirked at Sasuke's response. Who said I would let you join? The blonde pointed out, earning a growl from Sasuke. Why you? Sasuke growled, preparing himself to attack the blonde. Itachi sighed and stepped in between the two teens. Naruto-san, please don't pester my foolish little brother. He has a rather short temper and that causes him to make bad choices. The raven-haired pirate to be explained, before turning his attention to Sasuke. And Sasuke, I don't need you to watch over me. I am the older brother after all. Sasuke seethed and turned away, already starting to stomp off. Though the voice of Konohamaru caused him to stop in his tracks. Quote, why are you guys being so hard on Sasuke? Sure, he is an asshole, but he is Itachi's younger brother and he could be a great crewmate. I think we should give him a chance, after all he just wants to be with his brother and make sure that Itachi stays safe. I did the same thing with you, Naruto ni, when we joined Uncle Shank's crew. Naruto crossed his arms and looked away. Damn Kono. The blonde murmured in an annoyed tone. You just had to say something that makes sense. Itachi chuckled at his future captain's antics. Then by turning to his brother he held a hand out. Alright Sasuke, if you want to join Naruto-san, crew with me. I will not protest or tell you no. Though the final say goes to Naruto, since he is the captain. Sasuke remained still and looked at Naruto. Both teens remaining silent as their gazes met. Konohamaru watched his brother and Sasuke with an uneasy feeling sweeping over him. He didn't know what his brother was thinking or planning. Itachi on the other hand was a little interested in what his captain was thinking. Maybe he was analyzing Sasuke's motives or pondering on his fighting abilities. Naruto raised a hand and pointed to himself. Captain. He then moved to Konohamaru. Sharpshooter. Next he pointed to Itachi. Vice Captain. Lastly he pointed to Sasuke. Can you make ramen? Itachi and Sasuke raised their eyebrows at the question. Konohamaru on the other hand face-palmed and groaned. Yeah, making ramen isn't that complicated, Dobi. Sasuke answered, a little confused by the blonde's question. Naruto smiled and clapped his hands together. Fantastic, then you can be my ramen chef. The pirate replied, causing both Uchiha men to form a sweat drop. Well, he's a rather interesting individual. Itachi thought to himself, trying his hardest to keep an emotionless face. Sasuke on the other hand growled and pointed a finger forward. I'm an elite swordsman of the Uchiha clan. With a devil fruit that most would kill to have. And you want to turn me into a cook? Hey, a cook is the most important job on a pirate ship. Besides, you won't be some petty cook. You'll be my personal ramen chef. Naruto declared with a small amount of pride. Makin. Gee, it sounded like it was an honor to be a ramen chef. Sasuke grabbed his sword and started to slowly walk forward. You bastard. The raven-haired teen seethed, his eyes twitching like crazy. Naruto's lips formed into a devious grin and he grabbed Kurama's hilt. Oh, would you like another dance? The blonde asked in an excited voice. Sasuke started to draw his sword. Come at me, I'll hack that grin off your face. The Uchiha growled in anger. Itachi sighed in exhaustion. How can I help bring peace to this world? 'Cause at this rate all I'm ever going to do is play peacemaker for you two. The eldest of the four pointed out. His eyes turning into his Sharingan. Now both of you back down. Or I will do something about this situation. Konohamaru watched the tension between the three males. All three of them didn't move a muscle. But they all were ready to pounce and attack if needed. So I'm confused, Ni-chan. Konohamaru began, breaking the tension on the ship deck. Is Sasuke going to join our crew or not? Naruto relaxed himself and looked around to each boy. If he really wishes to join the crew, I will let him join us. The blonde pirate revealed, his vision focused on Sasuke. Though if you betray me or the crew, I will cut you down with no remorse. Sasuke released his hand from his sword, causing Itachi to relax. Well, if you don't harm my brother, I won't have any need to betray you. The younger Uchiha replied. Foolish little brother. Itachi mumbled silently, his lips forming into a small smile. Though he slipped back into his emotionless mask as he spoke louder. If you tag along with me and join Naruto-san's crew, who will protect this island from pirates? Sasuke scowled and folded his arms. The Marines are capable of helping this island. We are not needed here anymore, Itachi. Naruto frowned at the mention of Marines. Though Konohamaru didn't notice his brother's actions. TCH, please, Marines. They are nothing besides power-hungry fools who prey on the weak. Naruto spoke up, adding in his opinion. Sasuke narrowed his eyes, remembering what Shanks had told the Uchiha about Naruto and his hatred for Marines. Oh, so if we can't trust the Marines, who can we trust? Sasuke asked quickly, causing everyone to look towards the blonde. Naruto smirked and pointed to the Jolly Roger on his bandana. Pirates. The blonde revealed arrogantly. I'll convince my UNCLE to place this island under his protection. No one in their right mind would attack turf that belonged to the red-haired pirates. Itachi raised a hand to his chin. HN, that could work out. Though would your uncle agree to such a thing? Quote, yeah, Uncle Shanks might seem like an idiot, but he is one of the strongest people I know. Plus he has a big heart when it comes to protecting others. So he'll agree to place this island under his protection. Naruto explained with a small smile. Itachi nodded and seemed to accept the answer. Sasuke on the other hand just gave Naruto a blank stare. I'm not crazy about leaving this island to pirates. It will have to do. Sasuke spoke up, giving in his 2 cents. Come on, Itachi, let's go pack our belongings. Itachi watched his younger brother walk off and smiled. When did you become the boss, foolish little brother? The elder pirate asked, already following Sasuke. HN. The younger brother grunted in response. Konohamaru watched as the 2 Uchiha boys slowly walked off. Then he looked up to his own brother. They are an interesting pair, Ni-chan, but I like them both. The spiky-haired child admitted. Naruto nodded. Yeah, Itachi isn't that bad of a guy. Konohamaru slumped over. I was including Sasuke too, you know. Naruto chuckled and walked off. I know, Kono, trust me, I know. Though if you need me, I'm going to go speak with Uncle Shanks. With Shanks. Shanks was sitting alone inside his captain's quarters. His thoughts focused on the newspaper in his hands. He looks like Naruto made the front page again. The proud uncle chuckled before continuing to read. P.S. Dark Prince of the Seas, my ass. More like ramen addicted, pain in my neck. Shanks enjoyed in a small laugh at his own joke. Then by flipping the page he continued to read. What do we have here? The pirate captain mumbled to himself, looking closer to inspect a photograph of a recent pirate attack on a marine outpost. This Fire Fist has been getting a lot of attention lately. Though I swear that I have met this individual somewhere before. Leaning closer into the paper, Shanks tried to jog his memory. Though for the life of him, he could not place a name to the face. How do I know you? Shanks asked the picture, waiting in silence even though he knew there would be no reply. Suddenly the Den Den Mushi on his desk went off. Grabbing the snail phone, Shanks clicked it on and brought the phone to his face. Hello. The red-haired pirate spoke into the snail. Ah, Shanks, I'm glad I was able to catch you. Another male spoke through the snail. Shanks smiled and leaned back into his chair. Rayleigh, it's great to hear from you. Was there anything in particular that you wanted? There was a pause on the other end and Shanks swore he heard sounds of fighting. Followed by the sound of a few gunshots. Rayleigh, is everything okay? The worried pirate half shouted into the snail phone. Rayleigh started to chuckle from the other end of the phone. Yes, I'm fine, I let some slavers capture me and sell me off. Right now I'm breaking free and robbing them blind. The old pirate legend revealed. Shanks closed his eyes and started to shake his head. Why am I not surprised? You are just like Naruto. Reckless and dangerous. He is my son after all. Rayleigh replied with a proud laugh. Speaking of Naruto, I have been keeping track of his feats in the news. Apparently the Marines are rather fearful of him. He is getting a reputation of showing no mercy to his enemies, especially those affiliated with the world government. Shanks frowned. He was more knowledgeable on Naruto's behavior than anyone. After all, Shanks was his mentor, who has been watching Naruto grow for the past few years. Yeah, I'm rather worried about him, Rayleigh. I'm afraid he still holds resentment towards Marines for what happened to Kushina. He won't admit it, but I can tell he holds anger in his heart. There was another pause. Though after a moment Rayleigh started to speak. I would say me and Kushina are mostly at blame for his actions. Considering ever since he was old enough to understand basic knowledge of the world. Me and your sister always told him the world government wasn't to be trusted and never follow them. After all, just like your sister and me, you know the truth about what happened all those years ago. Shanks sighed and rubbed a hand through his hair. Yes, I'm aware of what really happened, but Naruto has no clue. Don't you think it's time we tell him about his heritage? He is strong enough to protect himself now and he is smart enough to make reasonable decisions. Wasn't the part of your training trip? Your last stop will be the island where you and Kushina-chan were born. Then you will reveal your family legacy to Naruto. Rayleigh spoke seriously on the other end. Shanks nodded to himself even though Rayleigh couldn't see him. Yes, that was the plan. But I don't see the point in keeping this secret from him for so long. I mean, he has always been a brilliant child. So I believe he would be able to handle the truth regarding the history of his family. You make a good point, Shanks. But if I know my son, and trust me I do, he won't wish to hear the truth from you. Like me and the captain, he will want to figure everything out for himself. The Dark King explained, knowing his prediction would be accurate. Shanks chuckled to himself. He knew Rayleigh was right about Naruto. After all, his nephew was pretty stubborn, just like his mother. You are right, Rayleigh-san. But I'm curious. You and Kushina never told me why you decided to keep Naruto's full name a secret from him. Would you mind explaining your reasoning to me now? Considering I'll be the one who will get to deal with an angry blonde when he learns the truth. Rayleigh sighed on the other end. I guess you should know our reasoning. The aged pirate began slowly. The first reason we decided to keep his full name under wraps was to protect him. He is already my son and that alone gives him a big target on his back. So add his full name into the mix and the world government would want his head on a platter. The second reason was because, like you said, Naruto is smart. He would question the origins of his name. And I didn't want to explain the truth to a child so young. So me and Kushina just decided to call him Silver's Naruto, until he was ready for the truth. Which is where I come in, right? The lovable Uncle Shanks who gets to drop the bomb. The red-haired pirate chuckled. His voice sounding a little on edge. Haha, yes, but in all fairness this involves your side of the family, not mine. So since Kushina is no longer with us, it falls to you to be the one to explain his heritage. Rayleigh pointed out in a somber voice, as he thought about his late wife. Shanks frowned at his old friend's tone. He missed Kushina even more than he did. You know, Rayleigh, my sister would be very proud of your son. Naruto is very strong and he has a will I haven't seen since the captain. I know he is going to be a very important person, who is going to change the future of the world. Rayleigh laughed. The will of D is that strong in him. Hey, Kushina would be very proud. The pirate spoke happily through the Den Mushi. Though I need to go, so give Naruto and Konohamaru my best. Also please take care of them both and yourself. Until next time, Uzumaki D. Shanks. Shanks smiled as the Den Mushi clicked off. I will, Rayleigh-san, I promise. The Yonko mumbled to himself. Before he sat the snail phone down. Left alone with his own thoughts, Shanks remained in silence for a moment. Thinking to himself about everything he and Rayleigh had just discussed. Wondering if he should go ahead and tell Naruto about his real name and family background. Though almost as if on cue, the door to Shanks' room received a knock. causing the red-haired captain to reach out with his haki and sense his guest. Quickly recognizing it was his nephew, Naruto, Shanks readjusted himself on his chair and cleared his throat. "Come in, Naruto." Without skipping a beat, the door creaked open, revealing a tall, muscular, blonde-haired pirate. "Hey Uncle Shanks, you got a minute to talk?" Naruto asked, already taking a few steps towards his uncle. Shanks smiled and motioned towards a small chair. "Go ahead, Naruto, take a seat. I just got done speaking with your father." Naruto returned the smile and took a seat. "Oh really? So tell me what my old man up to." The infamous pirate waved his hand in the air. "The usual. Robbing slavers for drinking money." Shanks replied with a soft laugh. "I swear he never changes." Naruto joined in on his uncle's laughter. He missed seeing his father. So it brought Naruto joy to hear information about him. "I know he will never change, but we need to have a quick chat," Naruto explained in a serious voice, causing Shanks to tilt his eyebrow. "I'm assuming this involves your new friend Itachi," the pirate captain analyzed. Naruto nodded in response. "Yes, see, it turns out that Itachi and Sasuke both are coming with us. Since Itachi wants to help me form a group to bring peace and Sasuke wants to be with his brother. So I was wondering if you could claim this island as your turf. Because they are worried no one will be able to protect this island if they are gone. And I think having your name affiliated with this island would be enough protection." Shanks smiled at his nephew's words. It brought him joy to see Naruto care about other people like this. It reminded him of the old Naruto before Kushina was killed. "All right, brat, I can claim this island as my turf," the elder male replied happily. "Though you know this won't guarantee that the island will be protected." "Yeah, I understand that, but it's the best option we have. So it couldn't hurt to at least try and make the people of this island feel somewhat safe." Naruto reasoned with moving his hand back and forth. "Besides, even if the villagers have an issue with the crew, Itachi could explain to the villagers that we mean no harm." Shanks nodded and rose from his chair. "All right, it appears that you have thought this out. So why don't we go get this over with?" he offered, causing Naruto to rise up from his own chair. "Okay, Uncle Shanks, that sound good," the young blonde-haired pirate replied. Slowly making his way towards the exit, Shanks walked after his nephew with a small smile on his face. Naruto was finally growing into the man that Shanks was trying to make him out to be, which in turn made the red-haired captain overjoyed. A few minutes later at the town square. Within the town square of the island, the villagers gathered in a crowd with fear stricken across their faces. Though this was expected as the entire red-haired pirates crew had assembled in the town square. Some wonder as to why the pirates were grouped together, while others just hoped no harm would befall the town. "What do you think they are up to?" one villager asked to another, while shooting a glance over to Shanks, who was standing in front of his crew, with power and authority radiating from his posture. "I don't know, I just hope they leave soon. Or Sasuke-sama or Itachi-sama come to chase them off," a second villager replied. "But I saw Itachi talking to one of those pirates. Maybe he is working with them," a third villager informed the group. "What, Itachi? No way. He would never betray this village," another villager chimed in. Soon the crowd broke into a cluster of whispers and gossip. "It doesn't matter what Itachi is doing or who he is sided with. That guy over there is red-haired Shanks, one of the 4 emperors. What, he is that monster from the New World? Yeah, and look over there, it's his 2 top men. Yasop and Ben Beckman, they are monsters in their own right. Wow, no way. Why? And that blonde kid over there is Silver's Naruto, the Dark Prince of the Seas. He is the son of Silver's Rayleigh and is one of the 2 super rookies. What, no way. I've heard of his generation of rookies. Apparently there is only him and one other rookie, but the world government is already calling those 2 the strongest generation since the Pirate King himself. What kind of crew are they? 3 living monsters and the son of a legend, who is already a supernova. No wonder they are one of the most powerful pirate crews." Naruto smirked as he listened to the chatter from the villagers. His ego was starting to swell as the villagers continued to talk about him and his current crew. though he felt a hard slap on his back and stumbled forward. Looking over his shoulder, Naruto glared at the culprit, who was none other than Ben Beckman himself. Listen to all these people, brat, sounds like you're starting to become world famous. Hee, hard to imagine you were that little punk kid who always went around drinking juice and declaring you would be a great pirate feared by all. The second in command laughed loudly, earning a chuckle from Shanks. Go to hell. The blonde-haired pirate seethed. Even though the world government labeled him as a heartless criminal, the red-haired pirates all knew Naruto since he was a small child. So to them he will always be the small smiling child they knew. I'll lighten up fish cake. Shanks spoke up in a teasing manner. Nobody likes a buzzkill, so learn to laugh at a joke every once in a while. It's like I always say, spit on me, mock me or pour drinks on me. But never harm one of your friends. Naruto finished with a small smile, knowing his uncle's life motto to heart. Shanks smiled. Exactly, so don't take everything so seriously. Enjoy life a little. Yasopp let out a giggle and gave Naruto a rough nudge on the shoulder. Yeah, brat, you should listen to what the captain says. Maybe then you could get yourself a girlfriend. The sharpshooter mocked in a childish voice, earning a snicker from his student Konohamaru. Yanni-chan, you should listen to Yasopp-sensei. After all, you are not the smoothest when it comes to women. The younger brother giggled out, thinking how awkward his brother could be when around the opposite sex. Naruto growled and was about to retort, but he caught his uncle's glare and stopped for a moment. Okay, whatever, the blonde replied, trying to lighten up and take a joke for once. Shanks smiled at his nephew's restraint, but he knew it wouldn't last for long. Since Yasopp and Konohamaru both enjoyed poking the bear a little too much. And the bear in this case was Naruto. Hey Konohamaru, maybe your brother just isn't into girls, if you know what I mean. Yasopp spoke up loudly, causing Naruto to haken his hair to overshadow his eyes. Konohamaru burst into a giggle fit, causing Naruto to growl. Hee, Yasopp-sensei, you're too funny. But don't worry, Ni-chan, we love you no matter what your preference is. Ben placed a cigarette in his mouth, then by looking down to the fuming blonde he sighed. You two idiots are playing with fire. I'd stop now if I were you. The second in command advised. Yasopp bent down to Naruto's level with a shit-eating grin on his face. Come on Naruto, you can admit it, everyone in the crew will accept you. We can even promote you as leader of the rear fleet, it's full of seamen. Naruto tightened his fists, a small gust of wind blowing around him. Out of instinct, Shanks, Ben and the rest of the red-haired pirates besides Yasopp backed away. You jackass, I like girls. Naruto declared loudly, striking the marksman over the head, causing his head to spike into the dirt and a lump to grow from where he was struck. We a mo mipe dof dirl so woo wick? A half-bloodied Yasopp asked, his voice muffled by the ground. Naruto sighed and picked the sniper up by his hair. What did you say? I can't understand you. The blonde growled in a low voice. Yasopp ooked at Naruto with blood leaking down his face, though he seemed completely unfazed. I said, yeah, what type of girls do you like? 'Cause like I mentioned, no one had ever seen you show interest in a woman. We are pirates after all. Drinking and sex comes with the title. Naruto rolled his eyes and dropped Yasopp on the ground. You never see me chasing after random girls for sex, 'cause that's not who I am. I'm a one-girl kind of guy, and as for my type. Naruto paused and placed a hand to his chin. I guess I like a girl who has a fiery personality. Shanks chuckled and stepped closer to his nephew. Typical mama's boy. Going after girls who are like your mom. You're gonna end up whipped like Rayleigh-san was. Naruto shrugged his shoulders while his uncle started to laugh. Even the rest the crew was silently chuckling at the blonde's expense. Yeah, laugh it up. Pretend like none of you have women who you were head over heels for. Naruto looked down to the giggling Yasopp. If memory serves right, you have a kid in the East Blue, Yasopp. And you? Naruto pointed at his uncle. My dad told me some real interesting things about you and some women. Shanks' laughter instantly died, causing the entire crew to grow silent. Ben looked away and took a drag from his cigarette. He especially didn't want anything to do with this conversation. Yasopp cringed a little bit from the atmosphere around them. Like Ben, he didn't want to be a part of the conversation. Konohamaru on the other hand looked around to the older pirates with confusion, wondering to himself what was going on. What did he tell you? Shanks asked in a weak voice, surprising most of the people listening. None of them ever heading the red-haired Shanks speak in such a manner. Naruto remained calm and waved the man off. Nothing besides a name, the blonde replied casually. Shanks looked down with an emotionless gaze. I see. The pirate mumbled, already deep in thought. The crowd grew silent as all looks were on the pirate captain and his nephew. Though the sound of footsteps and a grunt grabbed everyone's attention. What's with the down faces? One Sasuke Uchiha asked while walking into the crowd of pirates. Naruto looked over to see Sasuke approaching him, with Itachi by his side. Both boys were carrying large packs on their backs. Took you guys long enough. The blonde mumbled in a cocky voice, causing Sasuke's eye to twitch. Why you? Sasuke grumbled, already taking a few steps forward. Itachi held his hand out and stopped Sasuke. My apologies, Captain, we wanted to make sure we packed everything. The eldest brother began, slowly walking forward. Naruto smiled and patted Itachi on the shoulder. It's fine, I'm just giving you guys a hard time. The blonde pirate revealed, looking over to his uncle. But why don't we get this show on the road? I'd like to set sail soon, before the Marines and other crews figure out where we are. I'm not in the mood to sink any ships. Shanks chunked already out of his daze. He would drink his thoughts away later like always. Though for now he was going to help out his nephew. Alright, let's get this over with. Attention citizens of Forest Island. Uzumaki D. Shanks have an important announcement. Naruto raised an eyebrow, he had never heard his uncle refer to himself like that before. And it made the blonde wonder why Shanks chose to do so now. To Naruto it made no sense and he planned to ask his uncle about the matter later, if he remembered to do so. I am currently taking young Sasuke Uchiha and his brother Itachi Uchiha into my pirate crew. They are joining on their own free will and shall depart from this island today. Shanks declared loudly, leaving the entire crowd stunned. But fear not, as your island will be protected. Since today I'm declaring this island as my turf. Meaning anyone who harms the people of this island shall answer to me and my crew. Itachi looked towards his fellow villagers with his normal blank stare. What this man says is true. Me and my brother are departing from this island. We will become pirates that will bring change to this world, but you have my word no harm will befall this island. The group of villagers remained silent. They were just hit with some heavy news. So it's not surprising that most of them were shocked to their very core. Though some watched in anticipation while Konohamaru walked towards the town square. The flag with the red-haired pirate's Jolly Roger in hand. Then in one swift motion he stabbed the flag in the ground. Symbolizing that Forest Island was now turf that belonged to Uzumaki D. Shanks. Well, that's done with, Naruto announced, already turning towards the red-haired pirate's ship. Time to set sail. Konohamaru and Sasuke quickly followed the blonde, along with some of the red-haired pirates, who didn't care about the villagers' reactions. Itachi and Shanks on the other hand, waited for a few seconds, trying to see if anyone would protest against the group of pirates. Though everyone remained silent, causing the two men to walk off. Today was an eventful day and it was starting to come to a close. Naruto had gained 2 new members for his crew and Shanks had gained more turf. Even though he really didn't care much for having land under his control, he still counted it as more people who were under his protection. However, all of that aside, it was time for the red-haired pirates to return to the sea. Well, after they finished throwing a party in honor of their 2 new temporary members. Later that day on board the red-haired pirate's ship, night had fallen upon the large pirate vessel, but this did not stop the crew's celebration. Considering the red-haired pirates were stumbling around their ship drinking, eating and singing with just as much enthusiasm as when they began. Though there was a few exceptions to this statement. Ben and Itachi being one of them. Since both men were so relaxed and calm, they didn't go all out like their fellow crew members. Instead they drank calmly and watched Konohamaru and Yasop sing and shout like idiots. Shanks on the other hand retreated into his captain's quarters, where he drank in solitude, while giving the order to be left alone. Most people respected the captain's orders with no protest, all except his nephew Naruto. Though, the blonde tried to protest and talk to his uncle. Shanks refused to speak to anyone, which worried Naruto. But he told himself his uncle was a grown man who could handle himself. And if Shanks couldn't, the red-haired pirate knew where Naruto was. Speaking of Naruto, the blonde-haired wind man was walking towards his new crew member Sasuke, who wasn't participating in the celebrations at all. Instead he leaned against the ship and gazed up at the moon. As Naruto approached the Uchiha, he mimicked his posture and leaned against the ship. "You know this party is for you and your brother. Naruto began speaking without making eye contact. "You should try to cut loose and have fun." The teen grunted in response. Naruto's eyebrow twitched. "You know, I came over here to talk to you and keep you company." "Who said I want to talk to you?" The Uchiha mumbled in an emotionless tone. Naruto shot a sideways glare towards Sasuke. "I'm trying to be nice, you asshole." The blonde grumbled in a slightly irritated tone. Sasuke remained quiet and closed his eyes, then by taking a deep breath he faced Naruto. "Alright, let's talk. Why do you want peace so bad, with your power and family connections? I would say it's safe to say that you could do or have whatever you want." Naruto looked out to the sea, his eyes fixed on the slowly moving water. "Before I became a pirate I watched as my mother was killed before my very eyes. Then shortly after that I became a slave, where I saw death, famine and how vile humans can truly be." Naruto took a pause and gripped onto the wooden ship. "I hated being a slave. I hated being so helpless and being forced to watch as good people would be tortured by evil men. So I escaped and took my little adopted brother Konohamaru with me. Though that was after I freed as many slaves and killed as many slave owners as I could. Experiencing that made me want peace, it made me want to change this world." Sasuke remained silent, it was just like Shanks had told him. Though he remembered one more thing. "Your uncle told me most of this already. He said a Marine was responsible for your mother's death. So tell me, do you hate Marines?" Naruto bit his lip. His mother's killer wasn't something he liked to talk about. After all, he hated that man more than anyone he had ever met. "In a way, but you have to understand where I come from. See, growing up my parents always told me, Naruto, whatever you do in life never trust the world government. I never understood what they meant, but I've seen how twisted the world government and the Marines are. So, I spite and rebel against them to fight this corruption. I do not hate them because my mother's killer was a Marine. I fight them because of what my mother told me when she was alive." The Uchiha mumbled slowly. Naruto released a sigh and backed away from the ship's railing. "Yes, so now you know a little about me. Though I'm curious about you. What is your goals in life, what do you strive for?" Sasuke remained silent for a few moments, causing Naruto to cross his arms. The blonde-haired pirates did have much patience, but lucky for him Sasuke finally decided to speak. "Money, that's what I want." Naruto raised an eyebrow and scoffed. "I would have never assumed you would be one obsessed with greed. I figured you would have wanted to be the world's greatest swordsman." This time Sasuke was the one to scoff. "Please, I have no need for some silly title. Or to obtain a vast wealth, I merely want the money I need to re-establish my clan." Sasuke then turned to face his future captain, giving Naruto a serious gaze. "My ambition in life is to bring honor back to the Uchiha name. But for now I will travel with my brother and keep him safe. I'm not losing another member of my family." Naruto stepped forward and held his hand out. "You're an ass and we haven't been on the best terms since our first meeting. Though we have both experienced hell and we want to protect our loved ones. So in that aspect I don't see why we shouldn't get along. So how about it, wanna start over?" Sasuke gave the blonde a blank stare, his eyes focused on Naruto's outstretched hand. Though after a moment he accepted the hand and gave out a grunt. "Fine, but just so we're clear. I'm not your personal ramen chef. Hee alright, but tell me. What role would you play when me, Kono, Itachi and you set sail on our own? I'm the captain and Kono is a trained marksman. I even said your brother would be vice captain, but I don't know much about his abilities." The blonde admitted truthfully. Sasuke smiled and placed his arms across his chest. "My brother's devil fruit allows him to create illusions. So in most scenarios he stays within the shadows and plays mind games with his opponents. Though, He can easily fight someone head-on as well. Itachi just prefers to use stealth, while I on the other hand like to take charge and fight head-on, using my fire and swordsmanship to overpower my enemies. Naruto nodded and placed a hand to his chin. So your brother would be perfect for a stealthy spy and assassin, while you on the other hand would be capable of leading another group of fighters into battle. Sasuke raised his eyebrow. You make it sound like we are going off to war, the Uchiha pointed out with a small chuckle. Naruto waved his crew member off. Who knows, one day we might, we will be going to the new world one day. And trust me when I say that place is worse than a war zone. Sasuke subconsciously grabbed his sword. Then I need to get stronger, the raven-haired teen admitted. Naruto placed a hand on the Uchiha's shoulder. Stick with me and my uncle's crew and you'll become very strong. I look forward to that, Captain, the Uchiha replied with small smirk. I do as well, the blonde chuckled, as he started to walk off, leaving Sasuke behind, while at the same time being unaware of the two smiling brothers who were hiding in the shadows, both of whom were GL. Add to see Naruto and Sasuke trying to get along. See Itachi, I told you they would start to get along, Konohamaru whispered up to Itachi, causing the older male to crack a smile. It would seem so, Konohamaru, but come on. Let's head back to the party before Sasuke finds out we are spying on him, Itachi reasoned before he started to creep away. Yeah, that sounds good, Itachi. Let's go get some food, I'm already hungry again. The small boy giggled, as he followed after his new crewmate. Back with Naruto, the Dark Prince was currently heading towards his uncle's room with the intentions of talking about what he noticed earlier. Though as Naruto walked down a narrow hallway under the ship's deck, he found Ben standing in his path, casually smoking a cigarette. Hey Ben, what's up? Naruto asked, in a cool tone while he attempted to walk past Ben. Hold it right there, kid, we need to talk about a few things, Ben revealed as he stepped in Naruto's way. It's about your uncle. Naruto raised an eyebrow. What about him? I was just on my way to talk to him, the blonde replied. Ben took a long drag from his cigarette. It's about what you saw today. I know you're a smart kid, so I know you picked up on the captain's odd behavior. Quote. Naruto nodded. Yeah, the last time he looked that down was when he came to see my Ka-chan's grave for the first time. Care to shed some light on why he was acting so strange? It's a long story, kid, and it happened a year before you were even born. See, your father told you the name of your uncle's lover, but he never told you what happened. Ben then placed his attention back to his smoking. Then by puffing a large cloud into the air he looked down to Naruto. It was during our travels in the Grand Line. Your uncle met a woman who was both beautiful and wild. He quickly became absorbed with her and we stayed docked at the island she lived on for weeks. Honestly, I thought he was ready to give up his dream of a pirate to be with her, but that never happened. And why not? Naruto asked, his curiosity piqued. Marines, Ben replied, causing Naruto to scowl. We were a new crew on the rise to fame, so the world government wanted us taken out. So when the Marines came after us, your uncle and the rest of the crew fled. Though I got separated and left behind, so I decided to lay low for a few weeks. That's when I was approached by the captain's lover, who confessed that she was pregnant. Naruto's eyes grew wide. This was something he never heard from his father. Wait, so I have a cousin somewhere. That's the thing, Ben began as he looked off to the side. I went off to find the captain and tell him the news. And I accomplished that 1 month after I learned about the pregnancy, but when we returned to the island, the woman was gone. There wasn't a single trace left of her. Naruto looked down. I see, that's why he was so depressed. Ben nodded. Yeah, he was really excited about being a father, so ever since his lover's disappearance, he has occasional moods where he falls into a depression. So for now, go back up on the main deck, he needs time to think by himself. And don't worry about him, the captain will be the same guy we know and love in the morning. Naruto frowned. He didn't want to leave his uncle alone if what Ben said was true. He would rather talk to his uncle and attempt to help the man, but Naruto knew his uncle. He was just like Naruto, so the blonde knew that Shanks wouldn't want to talk about the subject. Alright Ben, I'll leave him alone for now. I don't like doing so, but I know my stubborn uncle. He will avoid the subject and try to make a joke out of it. Ben cocked a grin. Yeah, that's the captain for yay, a real pain in the ass. Just like his annoying nephew. Naruto sent the man a glare and started to stomp off. Stupid old chain-smoking baka. The blonde mumbled to himself as he vanished from Ben's line of sight. Hey that kid, I swear. Ben brought his cigarette up for one final drag. He is powerful and smart. But he is still young. I'm excited to see what the future holds for him. Two days later. It has been 2 days since the Uchiha brothers had joined Naruto and the red-haired pirates. During the past 2 days, the future crewmates spent most their time together as a group. Itachi, Sasuke and Naruto would spar with one another to improve their swordsmanship, while having Konohamaru use them as target practice to improve the young sharpshooter's aim and improve the 3 boys' observation haki. Then after a day's worth of training, the 4 pirates would enjoy dinner together, while planning out their future as a crew. The first topic the 4 boys ironed out was the roles each would play in the crew. Naruto was obviously the captain and no one challenged him for the position, considering all 3 boys respected Naruto's strength and new captain was a fitting role for Naruto. Konohamaru came in next as the crew's sharpshooter who was in charge of the cannons on their future ship, but like Naruto this role was the most obvious fit. What threw Naruto and Konohamaru for a loop was Itachi turning down the position for vice captain. According to the eldest of the group, he didn't like being in the spotlight and being a leader. Itachi preferred the shadows and stealth just like Sasuke had said before. So because of this, Itachi was placed as a spy who could gather information and sneak past enemies with his power over illusions. So with Itachi's role being decided, it left only for Sasuke to be placed within a role. To Naruto's disappointment, Sasuke was not placed as the blonde's personal ramen chef. Instead, Sasuke took the position as vice captain. Naruto was a little skeptical of the choice. Though he knew Sasuke was strong and intelligent, so when factoring in that the young Uchiha would progress tremendously over the next 2 years before they officially start their crew, Naruto knew it would ultimately be a good fit. But Naruto still needed a proper cook, shipwright, navigator and doctor if he wanted to survive as a pirate crew. However, the 4 boys decided to discuss recruiting new members after they left the red-haired pirates. For now they decided on growing stronger over the next 2 years, then when they form a strong crew, that is when they will pursue after their dream of achieving peace. So with that plan set in the mind of all 4 members of the Fujin pirates, they kept a tight training schedule. Which explains why all 4 of the boys, including Shanks, who was finally out of his depression, could be found sparring on the deck of the red-haired pirate's ship. Excellent job, Naruto, Shanks commented as he watched his nephew exchange blades with Sasuke. Sasuke, you need to improve your stance and footwork. Right now in a sword fight you are outmatched against a well-seasoned swordsman. But overall I'm impressed, you show a lot of natural talent like Naruto. Sasuke smirked as he blocked Naruto's strike. Of course I have talent, I'm an Uchiha after all. Naruto snorted and pushed the teen back, while Itachi merely groaned. His attention was focused on sparring with Konohamaru. But he could hear his brother. Foolish brother, just take the compliment and don't get cocky. Itachi mumbled while effortlessly dodging Konohamaru's bow staff. The younger brother grunted as he was quickly thrown into a defensive position. Naruto started to move faster and strike more unpredictably, causing Sasuke to lose ground as he was pushed backwards. You should take your brother's advice. The blonde began as he kicked Sasuke's legs out from underneath him, causing the teen to land on his backside and Naruto to hold the tip of his sword to Sasuke's neck. Arrogance can blind you in battle, and that could very well send you to an early grave. Sasuke grunted in response and glared at Naruto. Let's go again, this time I'll be the victor, the raven-haired teen boldly proclaimed. Then we will see who gets sent to an early grave. Shanks shook his head and got in between the boys. No, that's enough sparring for the day. We are growing closer to our next stop. So there is a higher chance we will cross paths with other ships and crews. With that being established, I need everyone at full fighting capacity in case we get into a fighting scenario. Naruto nodded and held a hand out to Sasuke in order to help the boy to his feet. All right uncle, I understand, the blonde replied in a carefree voice. By the way, Sasuke, good spar. Sasuke grumbled a thanks. He was a little disappointed that he had to stop training for the day. So he shifted into his normal brooding pissed-off mood. Konohamaru stepped into the conversation and started to rub his arms. Where the hell are we headed anyway? You haven't told us about the next island we are going to, and it's getting colder every second we draw closer to our destination. Konohamaru explained as he was starting to grow sick of the cold weather, even though he knew the worst was yet to come. Naruto looked up to his uncle while placing Kurama in its sheath. I'm curious as to where we are headed as well. Mind filling us in on some details? Sasuke crossed his arms and huffed in annoyance. I'd much rather know why we can't train. I mean, it's not like having me or the Dobi too tired to fight would be a bad thing. After all, your crew is one of the strongest groups of pirates in the world. So I don't even think you would need the four of us in a fight. Shanks pinched the bridge of his nose. For starters, I don't want any of my crew falling in battle because they are exhausted. So no training for the rest of the day, Sasuke. We can start back up again tomorrow and work on your haki. Shanks finished his scolding and looked down to Naruto and Konohamaru. And to answer the question of where we are going, it's a simple answer. We are going to Frost Island, which is an island known for having the largest mountain in the world, while at the same time being famous for its harsh winter climate. Itachi explained calmly, while cutting Shanks off and causing the man to face fault. After all, when you factor in the direction we departed from, Frost Island is the only island within the next 100 miles from my hometown. Naruto nodded and gave Itachi a cheeky grin. Thanks for the info, Itachi. The blonde thanked as he started to walk away. I'm going inside for food, it's getting too damn cold out here. Sasuke grunted as he followed his captain. Konohamaru giggled and patted his uncle on the back. Cheer up, Uncle Shanks, sure Itachi stole your thunder and made you look like a fool. But at least he didn't rub it in like Naruto would have. Shanks nodded, knowing the young boy's words were true. Itachi on the other hand smirked. Gloating is something Dark Prince San would do, just like my foolish little brother. The eldest Uchiha tried to joke. I swear I hope they don't start to become friends. Having their personalities blended together could become a headache. Shanks paled. Naruto and Sasuke were already both a pain in his ass. Though if they started to get along, it just may drive the pirate captain crazy. Knock on every piece of wood you can find, Itachi. 'Cause I feel that you may have doomed us all. The red-haired pirate groaned. Itachi sighed and slumped over a little. I fear you may be right, red-haired San, but that would only mean our future crew will be stronger as a whole. That's if Naruto and Sasuke don't drive the rest of the crew insane with their interesting personalities. That's it for today, I will stop here. I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you please consider subscribe and make sure to hit that like button, share with your friends, and don't forget to check out author of this story. Details in description.